What's up, my gangsters? What do we have here? So, forged from spring steel, then cold forged and grounded and heat treated. I tempered it at 175 degrees, so it should be around 61 Rockwell hardness if I understand correctly. It's held up a really nice hair shaving edge since I made it. It is a full tang, right? It's got a guard and it has a really sick handle where you can lock your fingers in there or like this, or hold it like a saber. So a handle like this, I don't really call it a handle, I call it a hilt. And you see it's got a peened cap there with a ring, and both of those stainless steel rings, they go right over the micarta all the way in, and then it's pinned in place and peened over, right? And that's here, people might be curious, that's part of the rivet lock mechanism. And it locks like that, so you can have it hanging however you want. I have it on the front here like this, like a belt. On my belt inside the waistband. And then a lanyard, which is nice. I like to hold it like this. The lanyard helps to kind of hold the knife with extra leverage like this, so you can get further reach, a little bit more oomph when you're chopping. Overall, it is a fighting knife, and it's a very nice fighting knife. Try to show you exactly where that balance is right there. Right there. That's our balance. So it's very nimble, very easy to flip around in your hand. It just wants to stay there, right? So when a blade is balanced right there where your trigger finger is, you have the maximum velocity, you have the maximum speed and control over the blade. Albeit you won't get the nastiest hacking and slashing, but you can get a good parry, you can get a lot of good parrying. So in a way, the defense, it's a defensive fighting knife in many ways. You have a large guard, you got a lot of space here, there's a good decent amount of metal, and it's a fast maneuverable blade. And then you got a skull crusher, of course, there. And then you stab and prod and aim for the hands and stuff like that and the finger. So it's a fencing knife in a sense. It's built a little bit like a saber. It has a hilt, and it basically sort of designed to be self-defense, defensive, fencing, everyday carry, utility knife that I use for batoning and making fires and skinning and cooking and everything else, right? So your fixed blade EDC, in my opinion, is primarily a fighting knife, but you cannot sacrifice, any of those EDC qualities, right? You have to have all those EDC qualities. It's got to be great for, chopping branches, preparing firewood, carving, opening boxes, the whole thing, right? The whole 9 yards. But it also has to be like a really nasty fighting blade. So, it's been a while. I've wanted to do this kind of handle construction for a really long time. I think this is like the ideal handle construction. You get sort of the benefits of the full tang, you get the benefits of the rat tail, you get all the, and then you have an extremely strong construction here with the rings preventing any kind of slip happening or delamination of the scales. I added these strings here and glued them in place. It's 2 layers because it just felt right. So without them, the distance between that ring here and the ring here was it felt like it was a couple millimeters too much. So I added that string, and now it sits perfectly in there, like this. You see how it kind of just fits right there really nicely. I would have, unfortunately with this particular one, because this was the third one of its type, and and it was the first one that had the ring at the back here, and that's important too. So, you know, it was a lot of trying to force fit things together, and I do really wish in hindsight that the handle was narrower and the guard maybe a little narrower too, so it would be just a little bit easier to conceal carry. Because right now it's actually kind of difficult to conceal carry this step ledge here. And, you know, it could have lost, you know, 0.5 millimeter from both sides. It could have been a lot narrower, 0.5 millimeter until like 0.25 millimeters on both sides. Overall, I'm a big fan of this blade shape. This blade shape is really, really sick, especially if you do have a guard. Because, let me just take this as a cutting board. When you're cutting things on a cutting board, that recurve allows you to actually contact that cutting surface even though you have a guard here, right? So that's very, very cool. And then when you're carving wood or you're cutting things, it's nice to actually be able to pull towards you, and having that recurve makes a huge difference. Another thing too that's really nice about this kind of recurve blade and having this rounded handle that points down is you can pry things open. So you grab here and then you pry like that. You can pry things like this. So it has sort of this section you can put in, you can, you know, lift things, you can peel things apart, you can split things apart. So there's a very nice utilitarian bonus to having a recurve blade tip down. I've been adding them because I've always been a big fan of recurve blades. You know, here's one that I like a lot, that I didn't make this one, of course, but here's actually a one that I've been working. It's not a recurve blade, it's straight edge, but it is a reverse grip. So those recurve blades, the picals, I just love cutting with them like this, and I think I just apply that there. But then the weak point with the recurve blades and the picals and the karambits is that tip is so fragile. So just raising it back up like that, it's much easier to take care of your tip. So you get some of the benefits of having a karambit or a pical or whatever, a recurve, by just having that there. And for carving wood, when you're pointing down, having that extra curvature actually helps get some nice texture. Another thing that I noticed that's really nice about a blade like this, where you have sort of a crescent shape on the spine, is that when you're spinning it and twisting it in your hand, right, it's very easy because that whole spine and handle section stays away from your hand, right? So the camera is a little too, you see, it's easier to flip, right? Because there's nothing kind of getting in the way. So for maneuvering and changing hands, right? That curvature in the blade pointing down is actually essential. So having the clip point there actually helps with that, and this sort of constant curvature on the spine, it just makes it a lot easier to move it like this uninterrupted. Now, if I had made this knife from, you know, Damasteel, stainless, Damascus, or whatever, it would be a 1,000 euro knife. Of course, with much nicer finish. This is a very rough finish, proof of concept, made for myself. So I don't know what to do when it's spring steel, because personally, I think a knife like this should not be over $290. That's the maximum you should pay for a knife like this. You know, any higher up than that and you're paying for exotic materials, right? Any higher than that and you're paying for, you know, gold. You know, if it's like a $450 knife, then you might as well have a little gold in there, you know, or some silver or some shit. But the thing is, there's also that kind of added problem where it's just me making these. It takes like 2 days to make one of these. So, you know, you have to be careful and precise, and you can't just randomly smash it together. You can, to a certain extent, just sort of smash it together. It's actually pretty straightforward to make. It's definitely something you should try, you know. You want a constant tapering handle towards the tang, and then you can fit the ring. You can just sort of stack and stuff and force everything in there, and voila. One of the design reasons for this is so that I can wrap this with a paracord katana wrap like a tsukamaki, which I've done. But the micarta looked so good, and it looked so good like this. I was like, fuck it, I just took it off. So overall, for me, this is like a really, really, really nice fighting knife. It's an amazing... It's quite light, too. It could be lighter, but for living out in the countryside, this is a really good shepherd's blade. It does have shepherd's knife kind of vibes to it. So, you know, because of that long, narrow blade, I guess you can, slaughtering sheep. But it's also just a very, very good, like a forest knife, bushcraft knife, military duty knife. It's overall just a very, very good everything knife. So 263 grams. I'd say that you could probably lose an extra 5 grams from this without compromising the structural design. Drill. I would have maybe drilled a couple more holes, maybe 4 extra holes here. I don't like drilling anything up here. I'm very careful with where I drill these first 2 holes because you really want to have the maximum amount of steel here. So if you're going to skeletonize something, you might as well just skeletonize back here. And the weight that you remove from back here, it's really weight that's balance weight. And the thing is, the balance on this knife is actually perfect for me. It's exactly where I want it for this design. So if I had done that, the balance would have been more forwards. It would have been maybe like here. And then it's where the guard is, your fingers can't pinch there. There's nothing to kind of hold on. So it would have been more difficult to flip around, right? So, and the fact that the handle is a bit wider. Now, the thing is, for the conditions that I'm using it in every day, which is basically a fucking ranch outdoor, the wider handle actually is perfect, and this sort of squarish, narrow, small handle is perfect. It kind of feels like an antler, the end bit of an antler. So, yeah, super, super cool. I will be making these, but again, like I was saying, it's just a one-man operation, and the smartest way for me to go about it is to make these and then put it up at an auction starting at $265. But because they take so long to make, I'm not really making them for profit. It's just far too nice, far too many things going on, that if I did, it would probably be like a 500-600 euro knife. And even then, it might not necessarily be the smartest thing for me to do when I'm trying to run a company, and I have to be producing, manufacturing as many knives as possible. So this is really, making a knife like this is really just for love. But I don't know, we'll see, because that's just me to you. And one of the things I'm moving over to now is selling directly just to the distributors, and then the distributors manage all the sales for me. And of course, if that happens and they sell this knife, it will be around $700, probably minimum. In that particular case, though, I would have multiple sheaths. So I would have like, I actually have here one that I was working on. I don't know where I put it. So if you just wait a second. So this was the one I made before this. So you see I went with a mirror polish. It doesn't have a ring back here. This one is actually really much more refined in terms of fit and finish. So, this was like the first time sort of experimenting with this design, but I couldn't find the right tubing for the rear here, and I got kind of bothered, so I had to make it a new one again with that ring at the back. But this is a phenomenal blade. Just absolutely freaking phenomenal. And the ironic thing is, here's the sheath. So this is a 2-layer sheath. So you would have like a 6mm total. So this is 2 3mm or 4mm Kydex sheaths. Very thick and heavy duty. And this would be like your EDC sheath. Super simple, nothing crazy. And then you would have like a more heavy duty kind of sheath that's double layered, looks good, has all the fucking holes in it, you know, just to maximize like all the options that you can use for carrying it. So things like that, for example. But again, yeah. So here you can see a lot of similarities between the two. When I was making this one, the blade shape was actually more like this one, but I just rounded it. It looked better. Just my mind was telling me. So you see a lot of similarities. The tapering spine, forged, the guard, the rings, well, ring in this case. On this particular one, I wasn't able to do this, right? Which is actually like something I really want to do on all of these. But it's only possible if your pommel is that thick. And on this particular knife, that was the guard I went for because I thought that this guard would look a little bit too thick here. And I didn't want to have a different thickness material at the back either because I thought it would look disproportionate. So I went with this. Now if I drilled a hole through there, that wouldn't work because underneath you have the micarta and it's just a ring at the top. This is solid steel all the way through, right? I used a carbide drill bit and I drilled all the way through this and I bent this metal around and it goes all the way through. This is solid. This is not coming out, you know. There's an enormous amount of metal there. And you can beat somebody's skull in all day with this and it's not going to change, you know, the dimensions of that hole almost at all. Now, if you, of course, smash the ring itself. But I thought this was a really sick addition. And it gives you that three-dimensional pommel grip, which is really nice, especially sort of on this tapering pommel. So that's one thing that I really like about this is that it actually gives you something to hang on to in your hand like that. That's just brilliant to me. And then, of course, with the lanyard at the back, some of you have already seen this. I can't find where I put all this string, so I only have one lanyard like this, and this is my favorite lanyard string. I don't know what it's called, but for the pommel of knives, like for knife lanyards themselves, this is the nicest material I've found. This is part of the reason is because you see these clickers, they lock in place because of the nature of this material. You see how it kind of pops out, like it's kind of bubbly in the sense, like the threads are sticking out here and there. You see that? And because of that, you can even hear it. So it locks in place very nicely. And yeah, that's how it's done. And of course now, if you really want to, so I thought that was really neat. And yeah, look how much extra reach you have now on this knife. This particular knife was tempered at much higher temperatures than that one. Since I figured that this one would be much more of a beater knife. I also think that at the end of the day, it's very hard for me to decide which one I prefer. I think I do prefer this one, to be honest. But it's heavier. Oops. You see that? See how great that rivet lock mechanism is? Not even the right sheath. $406 that's quite light, actually. That's not too heavy. So the whole package is about half a kilo. About a pound, I guess. Yeah. So that extra weight, you know, you do feel it. You do feel it. There's a 160 gram difference between these two packages. So it's just at that weight where it's like, okay, it kind of belongs on, you know, more on the hiking adventures than like a proper EDC. So what I do is I just carry this one everywhere when I'm out here. This is 24 hours on me. I have it in my belt like that. And then what I do with this is I just tuck it on the back of my shirt. It's basically loose. I'll stick some kind of lanyard here, like an inside the waistband. Hold on, let's see if I can get it to click in. Yeah. And that's just to make sure that if it does fall out of my pants, that it doesn't disappear. I was doing roof work the other day and it slipped out of my pants, and this side basically just slid all the way down the roof, and so I got a little marring, but I don't mind. The sheath on this one is much nicer. And you see, one thing as well is that I was experimenting a little bit with larger washer, and it kind of ended up in a messy disaster, as you can see, compared to like the recently done method. But I was just trying to get extra push. This is perfect, this one. Absolutely perfect. This one's a little tough. And then there's also, you see how it sticks, and the reason it sticks is because right here, this happens while forging, but right here it's actually quite thicker. It's like the thickest part is right here, which I guess can be a good thing, but it just sticks when you do the sheath, which I don't know if it's that bad of a thing, really, because it's nice that there's a little extra friction just to, you know, so it doesn't just slide out. But with that lock already there, and you can see that all that extra material does play a vital extra help in that lock. So the idea with this one is that I could actually carry it properly, like on a military vest, like right here, downwards, and I could just pull it out. So really cool knives. But I think the best way for me to sell them is just to auction them, to just do knife auctions, because like I'm conflicted here, you know, with all these things, because a knife like this I would like to be able to buy from, say, Cold Steel, and I think, you know, 290 maximum. Ideally 220. You know, this one 290. Right? A knife like this, you know, choose your steel, I think for 290 is fucking sick. It's a good price, you know. But yeah, it's also like the most difficult fucking, it's like, you know, it's like the most advanced camp knife that I can make. So it doesn't take a day to make. It takes, you know, I can't make more than one a week, really. Maybe 2 or 3 if I really focus on it, because I have all these other knives to make. The scalpels, you know. You guys are gonna love this one. Where did I put it? I did a black one with a new finish. Oh, a little dirty, huh? Look how sick that is. So that complements these very nicely. This is what I'm carrying today. This is one of the first V5s, the prototypes. It's really scrammy. You can see nothing properly stuck together, and the rivet is a little too small, but for a Scandi grind and everything, it's nice to have a little beater blade like this around. And then another thing I'm carrying today, I bought this for 60 bucks. I thought it was pretty cool. The handle's a little lame. I think this is super ugly the way they designed that. And this does dig into your finger, but it has a really nice opening. And I like that skull Spyderco. It is a copy of Spyderco. It has a really cool skull clip as well here. Just a basic liner lock, but it opens nicely. It's D2. You know, I'm just going to abuse it. You know, I'm just going to go out there and just use it however. But this has cut me like 6 times. So, got to be careful. Not quite an inexpensive knife. Here's another. My dad just gave me this. So this is now my new EDC Leatherman. I'm going old school. And what's really cool too is if you look closely, you know, it's not all that different. It's not all that different, that blade. Hollow grind, stainless, you know. So I thought that was really cool. So I've been playing around with this blade and testing it out to see how similar it is, of course, to the scalpel. But, you know, it does have a bit of wobble. It's old school. I love how sleek and small it is, you know? 150 grams. Not bad, huh? So, I'm not much of a Leatherman enjoyer, but I really like this one. Alright, lads. So, I'm in a bit of a kerfuffle. So, if you can, you know, go ahead and buy yourself some scalpels from my website. Kind of kicking up operations again. I'm going to be focusing on these and on a nicer version of these, and then basically just forged stuff. So, but I need to get back on my feet. Those tariffs really hurt me. Cut off all my US customers. So, time to just get cramming again. Here's a purple one. See you guys later.